Hello and welcome to the show. I'm back here in MotoGP 14 to carry on my career mode. We're moving on to round number 4, heading to Spain. This is a track, I believe this is the one they test Formula 1 cars at. I'm pretty sure. I've remembered that correctly. They don't actually race them here. It would be interesting to see a Formula 1 race at this track. It's quite an interesting track, actually. I may have got a little bit scary moment over the curbs there, but I really quite like this track. I've never driven it in a game before. I've heard of the track. I'm sure it's used in some forms of motorsport, but I've probably seen it raced out. I've never driven it in a game as far as I remember. Certainly not in recent history, anyway. But yeah, I do quite like this track. I can see why it'd be a good place for testing. There are many different sorts of corners. There's high speed, low speed, long corners, and there are a few straights as well. It's a pretty damn good test track, and yeah, I very much enjoyed driving around it. A fairly uneventful qualifying session for me, really, just circulating around, and it would be a familiar result at the end of it. I would go to pole with Miller in second, and then the two Alices in third and fourth, comprehensively beating my teammates on the qualifying front. It wasn't quite as big a margin as some of the previous ones, only 0.8 of a second. But that's all pretty much irrelevant, as still I cannot find a way of getting the damn bike off the line. I've tried all sorts of various ideas, various ways. I just cannot get it off the line quickly enough. Sure enough, in towards the first corner, Marquez is up the inside, and some other bikes also join in. Go past. Don't really want to get stuck out on the inside. It's a dive into the second corner, and somehow I managed to make my way up into third. I surprised myself, managing to pull that manoeuvre off. Of course, it wouldn't be long before Marquez would find his way past, thanks to a bit of slipstream down a straight, and we would begin our battle again. Me having a dive up the inside and Marquez doing a cutback, and that's pretty much how a lot of our battles ended up on here. Is that I could sort of hold him off. I could slow him down enough for us to keep swapping places, but the minute he stayed ahead of me for any length of time, he would eventually just drive away up the road. Just had that little bit more speed, but if I could keep fighting back, if I could keep holding my own, then we would continue to be swapping places into the first corner again. Have a big dive, trying my best not to overshoot, but I just can't quite do it. I'm being quite brave on the brake. I'm having to do this. I have to keep overtaking him at every single corner. If I don't, he will just vanish up the road. I'm enjoying the fact that there is plenty of overtaking opportunities. Often I find where with car racing there'll be a couple of good spots on a track. Depends on the track, of course, but there'll only be a couple of places where an overtaking manoeuvre is really sort of fairly viable, whereas on here it's pretty much every single corner you can go up the inside or around the outside of somebody. If you're brave enough, it's good fun. It makes for plenty of action going on. The frame rate issues are kind of irritating, I'll be honest. For some reason, I don't know what causes it. I can't figure out why. Just every so often it runs perfectly smoothly 99% of the time, and then for just a second it'll drop, and if it decides to drop halfway through a corner, you have a real problem, as we see there. It's a pain in the arse when you're midway through corner and you're not quite sure what's going on. Yeah, that certainly didn't help matters. It dropped me out of my attacking range with Marquez and put me back into the clutches of Fanati. I think that's how that name's pronounced. If it isn't, I have no clue how to do it. And we began, again, a very similar battle. I was quick enough to slow him down through the corners. I could keep doing this in every braking zone. I could have a dive. See, I didn't run too wide on that one, but the bike, he's just got more grip than me. I just can't hold. I can't carry the corner speed and hold that particular line. Again, I think my bike is probably not quite as good, and I'm not quite as good as he is through the corners. Again, he's having a look at the inside through there. I can be defensive up towards this next corner. It's going to be irrelevant anyway, because there's a long straight and he can just slipstream me down the straight. He doesn't need the straight though. An impressive overtake around the outside there. That's probably one of the best overtakes I've seen the AI do on any game. And then now I can make the most of the slipstream. Now that he's got past me there, I can slipstream him all the way down the straight. I can get to the inside at the bottom of the corner. I was determined not to run wide that time, and in doing so, I ran over the great big curb on the inside of the corner. There's an ambitious dive up the inside. That's not a normal place I see an overtake going on. There's not a huge braking zone, but he's on the inside for these 2 corners. I can't quite fend him off, and then he's got that little bit of gap needed to get away. Unfortunately, I would have another slightly frame-rated, laggy-inducing crash that put me off the track, gave me a penalty, and I would make my own mistake as well. Dropped a little bit back towards the end of the race, but I wasn't too disappointed in this one. I definitely felt as if I was making progress. It's a 5th place, 6th was a long way behind, and yeah, I definitely felt like the leaders weren't getting away that quickly from me this time round. A couple of mistakes and some unhelpful game did drop me to the 5th position. Still, you know, well, 1st to 5th may not be ideal when it comes to racing, but I wasn't too disappointed. I felt progress in the right direction was being made, and I was quite a long way ahead of my teammate, who was down into 24th place, I think, in this race. Championship, well, I still sat in 9th. It was all very close, sort of 9th to 6th. The bikes above that are quite a long way above in the championship, and in constructors, KTM are fractionally ahead of Honda. Second race today goes to the Le Mans circuit, the Bugatti track, a place that I really don't like. I do know this track. Unlike a lot of tracks on this game, I have driven this track plenty of times in Forzas. I just don't like this. I can never drive quickly around here for whatever reason. in whichever Forza game I've been driving, I'm never good around this particular layout of the track, but at least I kind of roughly know where I'm going. There were a couple of corners that I was quite quick at, or this sort of first corner section around turn 1 and turn 2. I may have braked a little bit too early on this particular attempt, but I could get the first corner and then this chicane pretty damn quickly. So yeah, I didn't hate it as much on a bike as I do with a car, at least. But yeah, apart from that, there was another fairly uneventful qualifying session. I stayed on my bike and just spent sort of 10-12 minutes sort of learning the track, and sure enough, a familiar routine in the qualifying times again. I took pole, this time by 1.5 seconds, with yet again the 2 Alexes in 3rd and 4th. Yeah, I was quite surprised, actually. I didn't expect to be quick around this track. I'm really not very good at it normally. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised to find myself on pole by quite such a margin. This is almost irrelevant. Quite where I qualify, I know I'm going to lose at least 3 positions off the start line, and sure enough, there goes. I'm down to 5th. Or whatever I tried, I can't remember what I tried this time around. Whatever it was certainly didn't work. Through turn 1, I know I can be pretty quick here, and I can be good under braking into this next one, and I was fast through this initial chicane, got a little bit caught up. There's just bikes in the way. I couldn't take the line I wanted to because there's a bike there. There's not a huge amount that you can do about that one. Also, under braking, I got a tiny bit scared. I tried to make a little adjustment. You can't quite make the little adjustments on a bike as well as you can with a car. I thought I was about to go into the back of the guy in front, and in me trying to change direction, it takes a little bit longer in some ways for the bikes to change direction, if that makes sense. And so I ended up out a little bit wide and lost some more places. I found myself back behind Marquez almost. Next corner is a good overtaking spot. I was like this place for some overtaking. I didn't quite intend to do that later of a braking maneuver. Somehow Marquez got past one of the guys in that as well. Everybody changed places in that particular corner, and in the run down here, I tried to duck into the slipstream, which was a pretty dumb idea. I didn't realise how early the AIs liked to brake for that corner, and I ploughed straight into the back of Marquez and went for a pretty damn big crash. I'm not sure after a crash like that the bike would be working, or the rider would be working. One of them probably wouldn't be working to carry on, but I got back on. The bike got back going again, and by the same point next time, I had climbed a few more positions. Have a guess what might happen. I hadn't quite learnt my lesson, and sure enough, I got a little bit better at avoiding him. Unfortunately, not quite good enough. Just the smallest of collisions with the back of his bike, as I tried frantically to get mine stopped in time, was enough to put me on the front wheel. And I haven't quite got I'm used to dealing with the car having problems in the braking zones. Bikes doing endos is not something I normally have to deal with, so haven't quite got that one. Haven't quite got the reactions sorted to adjust to all of that. However, I could carry back on and make progress through the field. And as I said, because overtaking is probably easier, shall we say, on the motorbikes, I could make all sorts of interesting passes. That's the sort of manoeuvre I liked doing at that corner. I could outbrake the AIs quite a bit into that particular corner. Have to be a little bit careful. They can get slipstream down this next sort of straight, but that time I was far enough away. Another unlikely place for me to be doing an overtake around the outside at the final corner. As there's two bikes, very nearly got three in the. I don't think I've ever overtaken that many vehicles. It's at a single, or this track ever really. But of course, now we're on the start-finish straight. We're kind of like alongside. I think I was racing with bikes of a similar performance when I was back down here. We had roughly the same straight line speed. Could swoop around the outside of two of them through the first corner, and then provided I could get it stopped and not do anything silly, they can bump their way through turn 2, and I can get a great drive out of the final part of that chicane and can run away from that group. And I was finding, as long as I wasn't taking too long with these groups of vehicles, I could make pretty swift progress. It would be very easy to get caught up. Like I said in the battles when I was with Marquez at Spain, I could sort of keep overtaking him back, and I could slow him down enough to remain in third. They could do the same to me if I wasn't careful. If the bikes around me could keep overtaking me back every time we went down a straight, if they could use their slipstream every time we went down a straight, then that could slow my progress quite a lot through the field. As it was, though, I was finding I could just about make all of the manoeuvres stick, and wasn't getting held up in traffic too much, which surprised me, as I made my way up into 12th, and by the end of the final lap I actually wasn't that far off the top 10. Another lap I probably would have made up another couple of positions. Despite not being the best of races, 12th place, or from qualifying on pole and ended up in 12th is not really ideal. Again, I wasn't too displeased with this one. I'd driven pretty damn quickly on the closing few laps. Worked my way up from 2 fulls to work my way back up to 12th. I'm not too disheartened by that. I think I could have done a lot better at Le Mans. I think I could have scored some decent positions, probably a podium even, if I hadn't had the knocks. But it was proving that I was getting a little bit quicker, and still remained in 9th in the championship. For the constructors, yet again, KTM, or I should say still KTM, were leading Honda. Our third race, we headed to Mugello, a track that I do know pretty well. It's kind of nice to have a track that I actually sort of know. I know Mugello pretty. Not my favourite of the circuits, but I actually know where it's going. I'm okay around here. So, yeah, from I think the first 3 races, I've barely driven the track. Some of the tracks I've never even seen. So it's nice to be on slightly more familiar grounds. One thing with Mugello is bikes are quite a lot trickier to deal with when it comes to hills and changes in elevation. Mugello isn't sort of the worst for changes of elevation, but it is quite large through some of the corners, and I found that was quite scary. Anyway, after the qualifying, yet again, I think it's been the same top 5 for almost every single race. I found myself on pole by 1.7 seconds. Yeah, it's exactly the same grid order. As we went to the race, it was cloudy overhead, but rain was not particularly expected. Off the line is the normal thing, really. Also, I had a strange problem, not the normal problem you have when racing. For whatever reason, the game had decided my bike should make no sound. You will hear bike noises because all of the competitors' bikes were making engine noises, but mine wasn't. I have got the special stealth edition, apparently, which is a pain in the arse to drive because I just can't hear the gears, which means I've now got to keep an eye on the rev counter as well as the riding and all of that. That's quite a lot to think about. Here, for example, I didn't realise I was in the wrong gear because I just didn't hear it. It's not ideal. It is not ideal at all to have a completely silent bike when trying to worry about gears. So yeah, there were a few times it was buzzing in the limiter, and a few times I was in the wrong gear because I just couldn't bloody hear it. Despite that, I may have given Finati a bit of a nudge there through that particular corner. I do apologise. I was up into 3rd. I was surprised how well I was doing on this opening lap. Yeah, I'd lost some places off the start line, but I was making them back despite the difficulties of riding the stealth bike. And there was one corner in particular here. I've said before that sometimes I have sectors on the track that I can make up huge times. Well, at Mugello, it was one corner. That chicane I just went through, I could make up huge amounts of times on everybody around me. As I found myself, I'm in the lead! Very, very briefly, I was in the lead of a race. I'm pretty sure that was the first time I actually led one of these for any more than the first 100 metres. Yeah, through that chicane, I could carry so much more speed than everything around me. Just the rest of the lap, I was just about average. But look at that, I'm on to lap 2, and I wasn't miles away from the leading pair, which was nice to see. Again, on the next lap, just the speed I could take through the chicane was incredible. I don't know quite... I just figured out how to do that corner. If only I could do the rest of the corners that well. This final turn at Mugello is horrible. I've driven it many times in a car. It is far, far more scary on a bike. That sort of the braking, the turning, and then the downhill nature. It constantly feels as if the bike is going to get away from you, like you're going to have a problem with it. It's very, very scary. At least to me, it's very scary anyway. Next lap, and I was finding myself in the lead almost before we got to the chicane. I couldn't quite make the manoeuvre stick there. Unfortunately, now I had a bike in the way to ruin my nice line through that corner. May have given him a little bit of a bump, and sure enough, he can go up alongside as we head into the final turn. I got my bike stopped, and I wasn't running too wide this time. I was trying to be careful. Doesn't matter though, he's got a lot more grip than me. And now he's behind me as we come down. He doesn't even need the slipstream. That's how easy it is for him to get past. Although I'm glad that he did go past. I can now sit in his slipstream all the way down the start-finish straight. He can tow me because my bike is not quite as quick as his when it comes to the straight line bit. He is on the inside for the first corner. I have to get brave, brake as late as I dare, and I manage to just about hold on to the lead through the first corner. He's close, but he isn't quite close enough to have an attack into the next few corners. And as we came onto the final lap, while there were some big pink arrows telling me that there were two bikes right behind, I was still leading the race. I had managed to fend them off as we come towards the end of the lap, and of course we've got my favourite corner to come. That is another corner there. You saw under braking how the bike wants to wobble and move around. That's another scary corner to try and get the bike slowed down for. And while the two bikes are pretty close, as we head into this corner, by the time we've left it, I think 0.08 of a second as we entered that corner, and then look at the gap I've got back to them by the time we exited. That one corner pretty much gave me the lead at Mugello. And amazingly, despite the mechanical problems of my stealth bike, as we come out of the final corner, I have a big enough gap to the bikes behind that I will take my first ever victory on MotoGP. Of all the tracks and of all the problems to have, I wouldn't have thought I would have won at Mugello with a bike that I couldn't hear the gears on. I didn't think that would work, but I took a victory. It was a 1-2 for Alex's. Unfortunately, Marquez couldn't quite get on the podium. I wonder if we can have an all-Alex podium at some point in these. That would be quite cool. But I did it. I can't believe I won a race, and it would be the one where we have a silly sound glitch going on. In the championship, it certainly helped me out. It jumped me all the way up to 6th place. It's still very close. From 5th down to 9th is pretty close. Marquez and up, sort of 4th to 1st, is quite a big jump. But I'm, again, not too displeased with that. And Honda have closed up to KTM in the Constructors' Championship. After the race, it gave me the option to sign for a new team. Last time around, I selected to try and sign for this team. What is it? Junior Team Go Fun. Funny name for a team. That was the team that I tried to join. However, the Team Alex, the Hondas, offered me a contract, and with a greater team performance, that was to be the one that I would go for. I just had a look in case any of the other teams were any better. But yes, I will join the Team Alex. It shouldn't be called a Spanish name. It shall be from now on Team Alex. So yeah, I shall carry on racing a Honda in the next video. So there we go. That is it for this one. I won my first race at MotoGP. I was very pleased with that. However, that is it for today. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.